So, folks, there is a show that I turn to when I want to know where the liberal mind is at, right? And I I have questions. It's like someone in the olden days going to consult an oracle. I need to climb the mountain. I need to part the vines and enter the ancient temple, to find a priestess inhaling incense. Like that is of course the equivalent to the modern day show, The View. And I've talked about this in the in the past. No, I said incense. Incense. Jesus. But The View. It is where the modern wine mom congregates. It is truly a meeting place, a highway through the liberal mind. And what better place to go to just kind of see how are they feeling? How's your average liberal feeling about the Trump administration? What's going on in this country? And let's jump in. Let's take a look. This is unambiguously one of the most watched shows on television right now. Let's take a look.
Saturday, as the military marched across the nation's capital to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Army, millions of Americans turned out for the No Kings protests across the country.
Just to understand, this is where the normie mind is at, guys.
I thought it was quite interesting to see people really coming together and saying, you know what? Yeah. We're getting a little tired of this. Yeah. And by the way, we're celebrating our guys because those are our fathers and our mothers and our aunts, and you've taken away some of their names in Arlington, and we don't like that either. But we're not going to interfere.
Right.
I thought it was really interesting. I thought people... I loved seeing what Americans could do. So one of the things that
the No Kings Parade organizers did was not hold a parade.
Wow, the Her Take spinoff is looking different.
Yeah, it's got a weirdly larger budget. Saket Tanuki, thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs.
Test in Washington, D.C. in respect for the Army. And I was one of those millions of Americans who went out and protested. Millions. Millions.
Like, do you guys understand how good it is that like America's wine moms are talking about how they went out and protested? Do you guys have any idea how good that is for like just the general state of how cooked we are? Like, that's good. Like this video has 115,000 views in 10 hours. The YouTube channel has like 1.5 million. They're watched by millions of people during the day when they actually air on television. It's true. It's true.
People are aroused. I haven't seen people so aroused in a very, very long time.
Of America. And I have to tell you, it was so uplifting because so often we ask each other, but what can we do as one person? And just getting off the couch, getting off Twitter and going and doing something and being in community, because I think a lot of us have felt fear and loneliness in the last 5 months. And to see this happening all over America, I saw veterans, I saw old people, I saw young people, I saw blacks and whites and Latinos. I saw so many people that weren't Latinos or immigrants holding up signs for the dignity of the immigrant community. Yes. Thank you for your allyship. I saw a ton. Yeah.
It's just really cool, like that is the answer right now. And I've seen in the wake of No King's Day, I've seen a number of folks online kind of shitting on the mass mobilization that happened on No King's Day. Guys, for the record, somewhere between 5 to 6 million people turned out for No King's Day. That is a lot That is one of the largest, like, mass demonstrations in modern US history. Okay? And it's that's really, really impressive. And I've seen some people being like, well, it's not that's not like, they're like having parties and stuff. They're not marching in a real way. And it's just kind of like, well, that's good, actually. Like, that means we can, like, maintain some semblance of order, because if that order breaks down, people are going to die. Like, that's when people start laying down their lives. And, like, it'd be really nice if we could just fix these problems without people, like, brawling to death in the streets. But, like, that's the thing, right? Like, it's good, even if liberals are in the streets just trying to look good, that's good. They are taking an actual action to show dissent. Like, in if things get worse in this country, like,
Don't forget that there was also recruiting occurring too. That got
yes,
some people to be active.
absolutely. The networks people build while protesting are really, really important. But also, if you are getting, like, this idea that, oh, well, it's just liberals, virtue signaling or whatever, like, I would throw out to you that you should look at how, in times of occupation or intense crackdowns, in order to survive, some form of resistance needs to be willing to, move an object from point A to point B, slow down their work, be extra lazy, do things that gum up the works. And those actions can come with risk, and getting people used to taking risk, however small, to, like, go out and protest, that is good. That is useful for, like, down the road. We are not just getting people out on the streets to do fuck all. We're doing it because, the time before that, we had, I think maybe 1.5 million, maybe 2 million people turn out. This time it's double that. And, like, the entire purpose is to continue building, get bigger, get people more trained, more accustomed to getting out in the streets. That's good. Other countries have that, and it's very good for them. There's a reason politicians in France are afraid of raising the retirement age. And it's because people in France actually will turn out in the streets, shut down all of their work. And, like, that's a huge problem for the government of France, for the economy of France. And so those protests, because they're ingrained, they're a lot easier to do because everyone is already on board with the idea of protesting. And that is what we need to do here in America. We need to get people accustomed to doing that. I heard the numbers hit 13 million. Jeez. I mean, if it got that high, I would love that.
They think that if lots of people do it, it makes them less special. That's more selfish than any person who does the work for the wrong reasons.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Oh yeah, but, like, that's the thing, Left Foo. Like, all those protests are going to be libbed up because most of the people in this country are libs. It sucks, but that's what we got to work with. The nice thing about libs is that generally speaking, people can, you can present the lib like a better idea, and if you're talking to, like, a normal person instead of a politician, you can present them with a better idea and generally convince them that better idea is good. Like, hey, wouldn't it be better if people, like the workers owned the factory instead of a boss, instead of, like, a private interest company? Yeah, libs protesting is good, and also can be a radicalizing action to bring them closer to our position, which I think should be our overall goal. The protests I saw in my area were very lib, but there were a lot of libs. Yup. Def gonna try and go to the next one. I had multiple IRL friends go to the protests, and it felt really good to see people actually go out and protest and be politically active. Absolutely. Tons more work is needed. Oh, fuck tons. The work never ends.
Of American flags. People were singing. There was like this strength of, you know what? America, we are coming out of our shell. We are lifting ourselves up from our knees. We may be afraid, but we're together. We are fearless, and we are fierce.
Well, it goes to your point, Whoopi, about are people awake? 5 million people look real awake during during these protests. And I think what was really very, very important is what Anna said. They avoided disrespecting the military. They did not do sort of counter programming or anything like that, but they did speak in unison. And the backlash, I think, to President Trump's military parade is going to be pretty swift and pretty severe, because he's wasted $45 million of American taxpayer dollars, and at the same time is taking away money from our veterans, from their health care, from their families.
Good job pointing that out, bringing it back around to the fact that the Trump administration is fucking over veterans and VA care. We're going to talk a little bit about one of the things that they rolled out when it comes to VA care that is absolutely heinous. And it's incredible to me how little mainstream media these days talks about some of these issues. It's nuts. They're cooking a bit here.
From their food. And I know there's a documentary out there called What I Want You to Know, and it's by two combat veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan. Their names are Travis Weiner and Tommy Furlong. They've been very, very outspoken about it, and they said that this is a waste of resources instead of caring for our troops, which is what the commander-in-chief should be concentrating on.
One thing I want to say, I love that, building off what Anna said about this was a step where everyone could come together. It was so important to see those numbers and the shared perspective of people.
Oh, is this their new token conservative? I haven't seen the show in a bit.
But that's the first step. Now, the second step is to go back to your individual communities and congregate and...
Oh my God. Wait, the final count? Edited to reflect final numbers from the 50-51 movement on June 14th, 2025, 13.14 million people stood together across the United States in unified rejection of authoritarianism. And that number doesn't even include our allies overseas who marched in solidarity. That is crazy. The initial estimate that I was working on was I forget which organization did, but they estimated between 5 to 6 million. But that is crazy. Over 13 million people, 13.14 million, Snoogid. Thank you for sending that my way, vegan.
Coalesce around community leaders. This has to start grassroots and go up, because we can't depend on it to come from the top down, which means we need quality candidates in here, and we need to change this. Right now we're in primary season, so there are a lot of local people going through this right now, and I always say it's a verb. It's Stacey Abramsing people. They need to start going, and if it's not getting an official, it's picking someone you know is great and informing people, educating them. It can't start when the season starts. It's got to start right now. So channel all of that energy towards that.
She's not wrong though. Like, gotta say the View is kind of cooking here, guys. The View is spitting. The conservative on the View is a Burnett. Okay. Like, they're not wrong about what you need to do to mobilize against an authoritarian regime here, folks.
And I've said since Election Day, I think whatever change...
Oh, is this her?
...comes in response to Donald Trump is going to be organic and people-led. It's not going to be one political figure that comes up. And what stood out to me, because I actually had friends who attended the Army Parade, a lot of my veteran friends did, and I had a lot of friends who attended the No Kings protest, and I saw a few who went to the Army Parade, then went to Maryland and did the No Kings protest, because those were not in conflict with each other. You can believe in both things. But what stands out to me is 90 million people who are eligible to vote did not vote in 2024. That's more votes than Donald Trump received, 77 million, and more than 75 million that Kamala Harris did. There are a lot of Americans who are discontent, but they don't know where to place it. And to Sarah's point, that's where in your community, grassroots, local elections matter, and engaging people who are like, I hate it all, so I'm tuning out the noise. It feels like something's happening that people who don't like politics are engaging, and that's how change happens.
Could be a referendum.
Well, listen, I say this all the time. Yes, we have politicians, but it's up to us. Because if we don't do it, if we don't get out and say, hey, enough, here's the line in the sand, it's going to, the sand is going to keep getting longer and longer and longer. And men were out for women, women were out for men, Latinos were out for
And it
black
was
folks.
peaceful.
Asian folks were out.
Overwhelmingly.
We were all out looking out for each other because
Can I also just introduce this particular bit of news as well from just before No King's Day, I believe. But Erica Chenoweth has been collecting data on the number of protest events in 2017 versus 2025, and yeah, we're still maintaining like a 3 times ratio above where we were at protest wise versus in 2017. Like, I know it might not feel like this because a lot of the mainstream media just hasn't been covering the enormous amount of local protests that have been going on. But like, the number people are engaging in is insane. People are more engaged politically right now than they have been in decades in this country. And I think people need to understand that, and that understand that like these people being engaged is one, a really, really good sign for us. And two, like they are a defense for us. You know, the more of these people that get out in the streets, the more protest events that occur, the harder it is for the authoritarianism to take hold. And that's why it's good that one of the most watched daily talk show shows is talking about this. It's good like how this is engaging more and more people. And honestly, if the 50-51 numbers are correct, like anywhere from 5 to 6 million would have been a great number of people to get out there. If it truly is over 13 million by 50-51's count, if that is even remotely true, that is nuts. That is absolutely nuts. That is a level of engagement in politics that we haven't seen, like I haven't seen in my lifetime, frankly. So I just want you all to understand this is a really big deal, and it's really, really cool and interesting because the more people that are engaged, the more likely the cool zone outcome for us will be good.
if I don't look out for you, what am I doing? If you're not looking out for me, for our well-being as Americans, forget what side.
Yo, like I said, my mom religiously watches The View, and a couple months ago when they started to call Gaza a genocide, she had a shift. I made her listen to my leftist channels when we drive, and suddenly she's engaging with the topics. If my boomer lib mom can change her mind, then there's more out there. Exactly. I'm in my 30s. This is absolutely the most passionate action I've seen in my lifetime. 10,000%.
You're right. As Americans, man, this stuff that's happening is un-American.
Yes.
It's un-American.
Unconstitutional and un-American.
I
She's right, though.
was so proud of everybody that protested because I saw people who were put in the crowd to instigate confrontation, and folks were in with it, and they did not engage.
Yes, and that's the other thing.
And people were saying to each other, do not engage.
Be aware that they are.
And I do understand that is perhaps a Libby position, but it's also one born out of a genuine fear of using these protests as a pretense to do a crackdown. And I think having now that we're a couple of days removed from it, I think that we successfully avoided that. I think that those protests pissed Donald Trump right the fuck off. But it's fascinating, you know? It's really, really interesting to see this shift in the lib mind. Might be a bit heavy question, but how the heck do we address the uptick in right-wing violence while also continuing to protest? How do we take power away from those people? I'll talk more about that in an upcoming segment, but to kind of get a short answer there, I think one of the best ways is to mock them, make them feel small, make them feel weak, take away their power, because ultimately their power resides in our fear. And when we're making fun of them, it's a lot easier to not be afraid. When you're pointing and laughing, it's a lot easier. There's by the way, this has like historical precedents. Authoritarians hate comedy. They hate it. They hate being mocked. They hate the possibility that they might be mocked. And it is in that very fear of being mocked that one of their greatest weaknesses just perpetually resides. The mockery reveals the paper tiger for what it is, you know? There was so much positive reaction to the protest I was at. This was in a county that went 70-30 GOP. Only like one or two people giving the finger and nearly every other car honking and waving in support. Hell yeah. Here, we have a couple more seconds of this.
Are bad players out there when you are protesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
And when you see them starting to go, you let everybody else know what you know, not them.
Yeah.
Because they're not there for the same reasons we are here.
It does feel a little weird that in a country of over 100 M voting age adults, having 13 M people show up to protest is unprecedented.
Yeah, it's just not been engaged on a mass level before, but like it's really bizarre to me that like having 10% of the voting population show up in protests and a relative kind of lull of coverage around it. It's very, very weird, you know? Also, Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs. Quick question from me. There's two main this that require protest in America right now. The protest against Trump has been successful, but what approach do we take for protesting incompetent Democrats and abundance types? Well, the protest you do against them is by getting involved in your local Democratic politics, and you engage in the civil war that's unfolding within the Democratic Party. You get involved in your local Democratic politics and you defeat your adversaries. What, like when we're like, oh, how do we protest that? It's literally you go into the Democrats' house and you beat the shit out of them politically. You go in there and you win those elections. You win those primaries. You go in there, you activate like a union. You like do organizing. You knock on doors. You learn the process of like being involved in politics. Is it a problem that his method of protest isn't as public or loud? Wait, whose? Is it that this method of protesting? I understand.
No one remembers the 8 millionth shitlib who came in and offered platitudes. Everyone remembers the socialist who brought pizza.
Yeah. Unironically, Kat Abu Ghazaleh has been doing a great job. Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs. Has been doing a great job turning her campaign against establishment Democrats into, a wonderful spectacle of what, human compassion can actually look like in politics. Oh yeah, Dragonfly. We're going to talk about what some of the things going on inside the Democratic Party in a few minutes here. But it's fascinating. But like, if you guys are interested in doing like that internal like power struggle stuff, if you're interested in actually like not just turning up and protesting Dems, but turning up and like torpedoing them from moving higher up the Democratic chain of command by getting them not elected, by getting better people into positions of power. If you actually do that right now, it takes 1, far fewer of us, and 2, like you can be one of the people who builds a better future for the Democratic Party. Well, I don't know that Hogg gave in, Jazz Dog. I think Hogg left so that instead of dealing with like this inter-party bullshit, I think instead he's going to go off and do his own thing with blackjack and hookers. Also, and I think that this is maybe like a smaller thing, not a smaller thing, but like maybe a shorter segment here. I just wanted to throw this out there. Here, I think it's at this point. Here we go. Found it. Just another important update from Normie World. The View had Javier Bardem on, and one of the questions they asked him was about his work as an activist. Again, keep in mind, this is a show that is pivotal to like the brain growth of like a normie liberal who watches daytime television. Okay, like this is where normies are at. All right.
And
For the pretty face.
I've seen.
Thank you. You've been way too generous for that.
I've actually seen you do it in English and in Spanish. That's another thing you've done in both languages for a variety of causes. And there's plenty of things to speak up about here in this country. We can't stop talking about immigration, as I'm sure you know.
Yes.
Our community is being hunted down.
Yes.
But there's so many things that are important to you. Why is it so important for you to use your voice?
I don't think it's about using the voice, which it is. It's about decency, to be decent as a human being, and to not forget your humanity, and also the right we have as citizens to really, as you were saying before, draw a line in the sand. So the politicians and those who are supposed to represent us know that we are the voice, and they have to hurt us. And basically what is going on in the world today is very much a lot of a deaf tone coming from them and not hearing what we have to say. For example, the situation in Gaza, which I see and of course they have to return those hostages, obviously. But the situation in Gaza is come to a term now where I cannot express the pain that I, along with many millions of people there, suffered on a daily basis watching those horrible images of children being murdered and starving to death, being absolutely blocked the aid of medicines, water, medical material,
Food.
kids that have been amputated without anesthesia. People that yesterday they were shot, 25 people were shot while they were looking for humanitarian aid in what they call the Hunger Games. I mean, experts on international law, experts on International Amnesty International, international human rights, and some people that know what they're talking, and Holocaust survivors are calling a genocide for it. And
Like, damn. I know it's late. I know it's late in the cycle here. I know it's been going on for way too long. But like, it is suddenly starting to seep in a little bit more to the mainstream here in America that like, oh yeah, we are complicit with the genocide. We are enabling Israel to carry it out.
if you ask me, I believe it's a genocide. Why is that? First of all, because the impunity that is taking Israel in doing these actions and the lack of action on any government is, of course, the backup of the United States with all these weapons and the economics, and also the silence of Europe, is creating a scenario where there's such an impunity that if we really don't do something about that, we are going towards what is happening now. And an absolute impunity on creating wars all over and creating so much pain that is going to affect so many people.
Yeah.
But
Well, Anonymous Gifter, thank you for the 2 gifted tier 1 subs over on Twitch. Appreciate it.
also, and with this I will finish, the most important thing is to not lose the humanity and really denounce when we have to denounce and who we have to denounce.
Javier, come back.
Like it is really just, it's good to see this happening. It needs to be spread throughout the wine mom community. Like every wine mom needs to be talking about how what's happening in Gaza is a genocide. You know, that needs to happen. It is absolutely disgusting that it hasn't happened yet. That is a condemnation forever on the history of the United States of America. But like, yeah, we need to have that as a mass recognition if we are ever going to extricate ourselves and pressure Israel to stop this conflict. This video came out 10 hours ago. So I just, a small update from Normie World. They are getting better when it comes to protesting, when it comes to fighting authoritarianism, when it comes to, or at least the Trump brand of authoritarianism, and when it comes to, at the very least, recognizing that there is even a problem in the first place with what's happening in Gaza. That is an important first step. Hopefully it gets a lot further than that, you know? Sorry, feeling pretty doomer at the moment. Gonna mostly sit back for now. That is A-okay, Ms. Milena. There you have it, folks. The weirdos are aroused. And by the weirdos, I mean the normies. I literally said the opposite of what I meant. Damn it. Joke ruined. Segment done.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather around. Twitch and YouTube and switchy streams. All that content is bursting the scenes. Politics, daily, plenty more. Your sense of fashion, you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat Jack.